Don't miss Minky Monday on the Zone. Tune in all day next Monday, May 5th, to win Minky Couture blankets, the original classy blanket. Minky Couture makes the perfect Mother's Day gift, and Zone listeners get 50% off with code ZONE50. Don't miss Minky Monday on 97.5 The Zone. Well, Texas has made some college football news, PK. There's all this outrage and yelling and pulling of hair and screaming when we heard that Ohio State was spending $13 million on a team. And now Texas is spending between $35 and $40 million on a team. Where's this NIL going? Are there people who want to write these checks every year?
What sport are you talking about?
College football. Yeah. Texas is going to spend $35 to $40 million. College basketball, the biggest number I've heard is Kentucky spending $20 million. Now, who knows if everybody's come clean with all their numbers and what's really out there. And there certainly can be some posing, and it's really hard to audit this stuff. But Texas, $35 to $40 million on a roster, and there's not a lot of denials coming out of the Longhorns camp.
Why would they?
Because I think it's true, right? Again, can't prove it, you can't audit it, but
no, that's what I find sort of fascinating with BYU. Is there's some folks who try to downplay it.
Right.
Why?
I don't know. Image, well, we do know image, like you say. They don't want to. In the minds of some people, they don't want to be seen that way. Other people are like, fine, see it that way. Let's go.
Well, win. I want you to win. Your winning makes me happier. That's the typical mindset of the sports fan, whatever that sport is, whether that fan is interested. So that seems like, I mean, to me, for basketball, for BYU, that's why they're drawing the attention of virtually every recruit out there, is because they know, and it's not exclusively money, because then the BYU people, the church education dude, well, yeah, but okay, yeah, it is. They're not coming exclusively for money. Now, Ryan Day came out, of all places, I saw this yesterday, if your number one concern is money, this isn't the place for you.
Oh, that sounds like straight out of Kalani Sitake's mouth right there.
But I wonder, is that something that you have to say?
Well, yes, it probably is.
So we don't make it total money.
But realistically, once you get there and you've cut the check, it's time for football. You need to be all in. You can't be cruising, and that's going to drive every coach nuts.
But I think it's a given that if you're exclusively for the money, it's not going to work.
Right.
But I think every kid is not, there's very few kids out there who are going to be exclusively about the money. So it's not really an issue. They want to go where they can win. They want to go where they can get coached. They want to go where they can audition for the NFL. Those are all things. To me, it doesn't need to be said. It's understood. If I'm a receiver, I want to go where they throw the ball. If I'm a running back, I want to go
where they run the ball.
And if I'm a lineman, I want to go where they put guys in the NFL. So it's already understood. So I don't need the church guy telling me, oh, wow, we're not going to outbid. We're not going to be the highest bidder because there's other things. And Kevin Young, this NBA setup and blah, 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 and the conference. But I get that. And it's, why do we decide if we put money up there with those other things, somehow that's bad? Why?
Because it's money. Yeah, money's dirty.
We're not being realistic here. We're trying to still be caught up in Pollyannish fantasy. I want to go where they can best put me in the position to make money after I'm done playing, after my education is over. That's fine. I'm going to go to the engineering school because ASU's now built up, put the jokes aside, they've built up a broadcasting school. Mm-hmm. They've got a campus, a satellite over in Santa Monica, and they've got the thing downtown where the TV stations are. So they've gained some publicity through that. So I want to go there, and Syracuse does it. Columbia School of Journalism for
Northwestern
print.
Missouri.
So there's
there's a handful of these schools. Right.
So what's wrong about going there to be able to set myself up? So they're doing the same thing. But somehow, if an athlete wants to do it, it's tawdry. Can't have that. That's BS.
Yes. I didn't come here to play school, right?
And I'm fine with that.
Because that's the path in that field.
And Cardale Jones played a little bit in the NFL. Now he's doing broadcasting, I think, for Fox. Mm-hmm. Okay, he set himself up.
He did.
He played by the rules, and now I've heard. Yak and I were listening to him the other day. He's very good. Was it you?
Yeah, we were out there with Yak, and we were talking about the show and booking guests, and he was on, and we're like, was that Cardale? And then he came back on, like, yeah, that's him. Yeah.
And he sounded great.
I know.
So he used the system to set himself up.
And let's be honest, if he went to San Diego State, he wouldn't have that opportunity. But he went to Ohio State, so he has that opportunity.
Maybe so.
You need that platform. He went to the right school. And then on top of it, he had to be good because he's been doing it long enough now. If he didn't have a knack for it,
you got to be good.
He'd be out, and they'd be on to the next whoever who, played well for a big school.
Yes, exactly. I just don't see. I get it. Don't go exclusively 1,000% for the cash. That's not really good. And for you, I would say, wait a second, dog. Don't you be putting down San Diego State. You're forgetting Jeannie Zelasco.
I'm not forgetting Jeannie Zelasco. I watched Jeannie Zelasco.
I bet you did. That sounds creepy, by the way. I'm just saying. That sounds creepy.
Save that for Paulazon.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I don't need 13-year-old DJ reliving memories here.
No, I was 15.
Step away.
I was 15, but
yeah,
whatever.
that's even worse.
Sorry. You said you can handle truth, and then I give you truth.
And I gave you truth right back.
Fine.
That's disgusting.
How about this quote out of the Houston Chronicle? A source. It's just unsustainable. The next season after this year, the whole world will be back to reality. I don't believe that.
Well, but what's reality? Will it be everything will be universally reality? No. Will it be potentially better and more normal than it is right now? I think so.
Well, Texas?
I think to the point that person's making is that they're sending $40 million this year. It's going to be cut to that $20 million revenue figure.
I don't believe that either.
And I
don't believe that. I know what you're talking about, Yak, and you're right. I know what you're saying because that is what they're saying, but I don't believe it.
But that's the way it's always been.
Agreed.
Okay, but you were fine the way it was always. You went you sat on your father's lap at San Diego State and watched Brian Sipe or whoever the quarterback was. I think
a little before my time, but yeah, he was there.
Dan Fouts with the Chargers?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I was there for his.
Okay, well, they were all getting paid, and you were way into it. And whoever was the quarterback and run Marshall Faulk or whomever, they've had a number of great players over the years, receivers, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's not a total dog school by any stretch.
Nope.
And those kids, Isaac Curtis.
Isaac Curtis played.
They were probably getting cash.
Played for a long time.
Somebody was. Getting benefits that were quote-unquote illegal.
There were no $100 handshakes in San Diego, PK.
I mean, so it was up the street, wherever.
Maybe $50 handshakes.
But the world got along just fine.
It did.
So we'll get along just fine here.
Agreed.
And it will go back to more normalcy, which involves cheating. Cheating is normal.
I don't even.
So-called cheating.
That so-called cheating, maybe for a year or two, there'll be a lawsuit and then it'll be done. I just don't think we're going away from NIL. The Texas boosters who've coughed up 35 to 40 million, 35 to 40 million, and the Ohio State boosters who gave 13 million 3 years ago when that was quote unquote outrageous, they're not going away. They're not going to accept losing. And don't they play each other in the season opener this year? I think they play the first weekend. Somebody's going to lose, and somebody's going to be outraged, and somebody's going to want to write a bigger
actually,
check.
It doesn't even matter anymore.
But they can certainly overcome it. As we saw Ohio State lose to Oregon early in the year, overcome it, and actually lose a second time to Michigan.
Last game of the season.
They get in the playoff anyway, and then they roll through it.
That game is just basically exhibition now.
It's playing for seeding.
It's fun.
Maybe. It is fun.
But it doesn't have any long-lasting ramifications by any stretch. Utah lost its first game against the SC and then won the rest of them, went to the Rose Bowl. So, I'm glad they're playing. It'll be fun. I'll check it out for sure. But I don't think that this stuff, okay, this is what we wanted. We wanted them to get paid. But now some people want them, well, maybe, they couldn't take their girlfriend out to a movie and a pizza. It's always the dramatic. As every player on the West Coast, every trip is going to be to Piscataway. Everything is the most outrageous. Majerus, I just wanted to buy a hamburger. Bull, you know what? There was way more. Coaches told me there was way more.
Oh, he said it too. He just didn't say it later to the national media.
Right.
But he knew he'd been in the gym watching players when he wasn't supposed to and working them out when he wasn't supposed to.
And who cares? But it's always the extreme. And now we wanted the kids to get paid.
And now they're getting paid.
Well, wait a second
and
here. I was just talking about maybe $20,000.
Yeah, well. This is what the market will bear. This is what people in Texas are willing to write checks for, and
the
people in Ohio are willing to write.
drives up in a Lamborghini.
Yeah. Well.
What? I never signed on for. Did you vote for that? Is that what you voted for?
Well, it turns out we didn't have a vote in this.
Well, but it was public sentiment. So, yes, we did. And we do have a vote. We could turn it off.
Oh, we're not turning it off.
But that's a vote.
We're not turning it off.
We do have a vote. There's no question we have a vote.
Not only are we not turning it off, more of us are turning to the games.
I understand
or
that.
the same number of people are consuming more games. Maybe you're watching 3 games instead of 2.
That's why, yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Everything else is nichified.
College football is as big as ever.
And it's across all of sports. We're seeing it for all the talk about the NBA. Now the NBA playoff ratings are off the charts. The PGA Tour.
Didn't pay attention to them when they were down.
The PGA
I watched
Tour.
It either way.
The PGA Tour numbers are through the roof on multiple networks. They're accelerating.
And that's why in these last final 6 months of your radio career, you're going to go out with a blaze.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And hopefully Tim will speak well of me at my funeral.
No, he didn't have you dying. He just had you retiring, being phased out.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, you know what he meant. And then with no purpose, I will immediately begin to decay.
You'll have a purpose. As long as there's an internet, you'll have a purpose.
Ta-da!
Looking up nonsense, you'll have a purpose.
Valuable information.
Yeah, when Wyoming dropped baseball.
1996.
We needed to know that one.
I did need
desperately. So I'm fed up with the outrage on all this stuff.
Right, and I'm also fed up with the nonsense predictions about it's going to go away or decelerate. No, I don't believe that. I'm with you. If they make it illegal, then the money will continue to flow. Barely out of eyesight. Out of eyesight, but just barely. And there will be people looking for it and digging for it and reporting on it. There will be people who sue to say, hey, you can't stop this person from paying me, and then the rules will go away. And I don't think that will take very long. I mean, I'm serious. I'm thinking like a year or 2, and it depends on how fast courts move and all that. But, I mean, really, I think the pressure for boosters to be able to keep paying them so their school can win, that Alabama thinks they should win, Auburn thinks they should win, Georgia, Florida, LSU, those 5 schools in the SEC. And now throwing Oklahoma, Texas.
You fans think they should win Big 12.
So there's 7 schools. Somebody in the SEC is going to be suing in a heartbeat because they got the 7th best team. It's not going to take long at all.
We had a draft expert earlier in the week said, I think this is killing parity. When was there parity? When? How can you kill something that isn't alive? I don't understand
it. Actually,
kill something that's already dead.
Actually, it's the flow of money that's brought people like Indiana, who hasn't been a player forever, and made them a player this year. They were 11-1.
Okay, good for them. One season, and look who they did. And the Big Ten sucks.
It does.
All they did was beat a bunch of crappy teams.
And that hasn't changed. I don't think the 4th place Big Ten team. There have been San Diego State teams that were 5-win teams that went back to Ohio State and Michigan and played 2- and 3-point games. Because those teams weren't on top of the world at that point. Hey, Utah's beaten Michigan 3 out of 4.
Yeah, some of that ebb and flows. Right. I mean, Utah beat Alabama in Saban's first year. They beat USC in Pete Carroll's first year.
But when they really
both those teams became juggernauts.
Right. The juggernauts
became juggernauts again.
Right. They aren't unbeaten all the time.
Right.
They do get beaten.
And you have to slide in there.
That level of parity has always existed. Where a school
there's
can
a little bit of up
play
and down.
A close game. There is up and down. and players get hurt. Late in the season, somebody isn't good.
There's up and down, but then the other big dog takes its place.
In a pool of 10 or 20 big dogs, somebody always has it going and is undefeated.
Yeah.
And you don't get to permanently live in that world.
No.
You get to visit. You don't get to buy
Boise
the waterfront.
State beat Oklahoma in one of the most memorable games,
and it was
with all
awesome.
the trick plays at the end.
Right.
Absolutely.
And Boise State doesn't get to go to the SEC, and Oklahoma does.
Right.
And Boise State doesn't get paid $80 million a year for TV money, and Oklahoma does.
So I don't see where any of that's changing. You got to enjoy the moments, the fun moments when they happen, and just go up and down with it and just celebrate, dance up, jump up and down, because I don't think any of our schools here are going to consistently be a big dog year after year after year. But they can be. Maybe BYU basketball, and maybe BYU there's apparently within a literal stone's throw, there's 82 billionaires is what I'm being told. And every last one of them wants to... Are you
exaggerating here, or did someone tell you that?
No, they talk about it all day.
Well, you said 82. I didn't know, okay.
10, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Back in Jersey, in Newark, what's his face? Kevin Young was talking about it. You drive up and down I-15 in Utah County, and you have all these tech billionaires. He literally said that. And we know the ESPN story, which we're going to keep going back to. They were touting their chests on that, and BYU leadership got a little queasy about it. Okay, they got a little queasy about it, but freaking DeMonza ain't going anyplace else, and these other kids that they're getting, they're still coming. They got queasy about it, but yet they're still having the kids go there.
$13 million to $20 million to $35 or $40 million. Where does this accelerate? You know, in the day a booster says that, I don't doubt he meant it. But is this going to accelerate to the point where at some school, whether it's BYU or somewhere, people are going to say, okay, that's enough. I've written you enough checks.
Well, yeah, sure, yeah.
Right.
But then there'll be a
school.
New tech guy come along.
There is that. The next Mark Cuban, right?
Yeah.
The other Mark Cuban's over it, but the next Mark Cuban, it's branded
And
to him.
BYU said enough was enough to Marion. Stop asking for money. They drew the line.
And now he's going to play football at the University of Miami.
And good for him. And Carson Beck, what did he get? He got millions to go there. What was the figure? I can't remember it now. Right?
I don't know.
But you can go look it up because he's going over. Isn't that where he's going?
He is. Yeah. He's in Miami right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And the girlfriend played basketball there.
Cavender,
Come on.
Haley Cavender.
Reports suggest Carson Beck's between $3 and $4 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And the world's going to go on. Miami's going to play, and they're going to pay Marion what he was looking for. Okay, that's the business world. These kids are now businessmen and women.
Yep. Which has been happening in other sports for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
We have Pablo on every week and ask him about it. They started an 18-year-old in San Diego last week. He's a professional, and he gets paid. And he's from Yak was over there. Were you guys comparing lunch spots? Because he lives 5 or 10 miles from you, Xavier Gozo?
Yeah, well, so he's not even 5 miles from me.
Okay.
He's really close.
Yeah, he's 18, so how come this 18-year-old can't in football? Yeah, over here an 18-year-old
My
in soccer
mentor
can.
actually coached Freddie Adu.
There you go. There's a guy who was a pro at 14, I think, or 15.
Right, because he was involved in some competitions. So, yeah. And so over here...
They're pros now.
And it's just going to keep growing. It's going to.
I wouldn't be heartbroken if they started doing 2-year contracts. I could slow the carousel down
that's
and
fine.
be interested. But that to me is more. That bugs me way more than the money. And the money is just the money, and that's what they get. That's what the market is.
They
get
caught unprepared. They being the college athletic world, it got caught unprepared because it was we do this for decades. And then boom, now we're doing this. And it was like overnight. What are we going to do? And now
nobody's in charge.
There was no guardrails to set it up. There was no easing into it. It was nothing legally, and now everything.
There's no one in charge to build the guardrails. If something happens,
I think conference commissioners can do it. I mean, they're talking about if you wait after spring ball in the SEC, you're not going to be eligible. So go ahead, follow it through. Other conferences can do it if they want to.
Okay, but no conference commissioner is motivated to limit the money or to make them sign multi-year contracts. At least not yet.
Well,
maybe they will be. You're
yeah,
right.
I
There
think
are
they will
other
be.
rules. There are other things. And it's just people ad hoc doing things like, yeah, we're not televising spring football. Heck, we're not even playing it.
Yeah, that's going to be a dinosaur.
Yeah, or different. Oh, yeah.
That's going to be like the third place game in the NCAA Final Four.
Just something you looked up in the history books.
Yeah.
Back in the day, the college football All-Stars versus the NFL champion.
Yeah.
That used to be a preseason game. Yeah, they don't mess around with that anymore.
Right. Yeah. Right. So that'll go away.
And if they have spring games, then Nebraska was on the front end of reinventing them. For all the people who aren't going to be here and need tape, we'll play a game. We'll set you up. And you get to play in the stadium. If you never play again, at least you got to do that.
It's the same thing with the eligibility rules. Well, we should let these kids do what they want to do, better themselves. But then we just opened the door wide open, and then it got crazy. And I don't think people were prepared for all this.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Everything you missed in this show, next.
Hey, bro.
You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
This show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
9 a.m. Slacker Radio headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at trajanwealth.com. All right, Jazz fans, for those of you who want to hurry up and start winning again, these playoffs provide
Donate
quite
$2 to primary children.
There's that. And these playoffs provide quite the opportunity to speed things up as these teams find out where they're short, how short they are they likely ever to be in the elite again? Will they rebuild? And obviously, everyone is looking at Phoenix for missing the playoffs. Now everyone's looking at Milwaukee because they just went out in the first round last night. Okay, so it's on hold in Denver temporarily because Denver just won and they're up 3-2 on the Clippers. But at some point, they're going to have a new GM and a new coach. Are they going to pivot? All these teams that could be pivoting, right? Because there's change in New Orleans and change in Sacramento. And
that's the NBA.
The new TV money is kicking in, and so the salary cap is going to go up 10% every year. So some of these teams have real limits on what they can do. The financial handcuffs, because of the collective bargaining agreement, are on, and they really have been sitting on the sideline, and they haven't been players, and so the Jazz haven't been able to make any of the moves that we'd like to see them make, the big, splashy, exciting stuff that gets everybody fired up. But a 10% raise this year, a 10% raise the year after, and on and on. Some of these teams are going to get the financial handcuffs off. Some of these contracts are going to end also. So the possibilities are coming. Now, the first one, the one we've been talking about today, is Giannis. But that's just one of many potential options. Do the Bucks want to rebuild? Does Giannis want to ask out and force their hand? Do they just say, we got to rebuild? You're 30, and we got nothing around you and no way to improve.
I think that's the case.
Should the Jazz go after Giannis? We've had a lot on that. And then if that doesn't work out, if this thing turns into an auction and they're giving up too much for a guy who's 30, a guy we don't know, he'll be a free agent. He can be a free agent at 32 or 33 because he's got a player option at the end of his deal. Would he agree to sign an extension here?
Oh, yeah, in a heartbeat.
You don't know that. That hasn't been reported. You just write it, Nick. It's after 9 o'clock. You need several grains of salt.
Get
for
out of
PK right
town,
now.
man. Who doesn't want to be here?
Chad's not buying it. Why would they dump Giannis? They just need to sign better role players. Plus, Dame was hurt, so they're missing their second All-Star. They'd be dumb to trade Giannis onto the
I don't know if
tempo.
Lillard is an All-Star anymore. And
He's not going to be able
out.
to play. He's 34. He's going to miss a lot or all of his 35-year-old season.
Yeah, it's
he could be.
tough.
Next time we see him, he might be 36, having missed a year coming off an Achilles.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like what we see out of Klay Thompson.
Right. Yeah. Clay's a nice NBA player, but he used to be the second best player on a championship team and capable of dropping 20 or 30 in any given quarter.
Yeah, a dynasty, basically.
Right.
I think that's where they're going. If I'm Milwaukee, I absolutely review everything and anything and see what ways that we can do to make our team better. You don't want to go into a funk and just allow Giannis to just be irrelevant down the stretch. And sort of like Nowitzki was after they won their title. A premier player.
And it didn't help their rebuild.
I mean, I think he's the best Milwaukee player of all time.
Giannis has surpassed Kareem.
Yeah, because he wasn't there long enough. Now, I would take Abdul-Jabbar over him individually.
As a career.
Nobody thinks of him as a Milwaukee Buck.
But Kareem played 2/3 of his career in L.A.
Right. That's where we all think of him.
Right.
He played college there too and all that. So you got to be careful on what you do with this, and he needs to be treated in a manner that is something that is used as an asset. You can't get too sentimental about all that stuff, and I don't think Ainge has any sentimentality.
Yeah, not really worried about that.
Yeah.
It's not something we spend a lot of time talking about.
It wouldn't be. They don't have anything to be sentimental about here anyway.
No,
but, I mean,
it would be more about Milwaukee getting too sentimental.
That's the type of leadership I would want on my team. And if he has to go play someplace else, well, whoop-de-freaking do. There's Willie Mays was traded, Hank Aaron. I mean, there's plenty of players have been traded. It's not that big of a deal. And Jordan played for Washington, but nobody counts that anyway. So you'll always
nobody counts any of these. We could go down the list. Nobody worries about Ewing in Seattle or Olajuwon in Toronto.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Right.
I mean, Elway didn't move and Duncan didn't move, so there are some. Cal Ripken didn't move. But there's a lot of players who had a couple of years at the end somewhere.
Did you hear about Elway in the golf cart accident?
Somebody got really hurt, apparently.
His agent is on life support.
I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
I heard it was critical condition.
Palm Springs. And there was a golf cart accident. And he fell and hit his head. And blah, blah, blah. Yeah. 61-year-old man. But... these things have to be taken into consideration because every franchise is going to need to reload. I mean, you could argue Kobe essentially was irrelevant.
Oh, the Kobe Nowitzki stories. There's a lot of parallels, and Kobe had an Achilles also.
Yeah. So I can see Milwaukee doing it. Phoenix absolutely has to do it. It's the only way out for them.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if to find out if Ainge is interested in someone who's 30 or if that doesn't match the timeline. Because I think that's in a gray area where you can argue it both ways.
30, I don't know. I can argue strongly that 30 is no big deal.
I know you can. It can be argued both ways.
I think it's less of an argument the other way.
If they get lucky, we've got draft lotteries coming up the next couple of Mondays. May 5th is the NHL lottery. May 12th is the NBA draft lottery. And if the Jazz get the number one pick and get Cooper Flagg, I don't think 30 is that big a deal. I think they can win pretty quickly. Cooper's pretty far down the road developmentally. We've already heard about him playing against the NBA Olympians with the select team, and apparently he looked like $1 million, and all the NBA players came away very impressed. Now, if you end up drafting 4th or 5th and you end up drafting somebody you think is going to be awesome, but you think is also 3 years away, I'm not so excited about going for a 30-year-old then. That doesn't, to me, the math just doesn't add up.
See, I'm not even going to entertain that because they're going to get Flagg.
Okay, well, then that's a different deal because I think with Flagg, you could really just say, hey, let's go get somebody, whether it's Giannis or it's Booker or it's somebody else. And if you keep, in the process, you may lose some of your older guys, but you're going to keep some of your older guys too. And it's go time.
Man, when they get Flagg, Giannis would be a nice second option.
I don't know if 30-year-old Giannis would be a second option, but I can see where 33-year-old Giannis would be a second option.
No.
That's the other thing. They got to find out if Giannis would sign this could be over
with
before.
Flagg?
He'll
call him up and say, hey, if you take me, I'll sign. I'll sign right now.
That's pretty aggressive.
See, but that's what they're going to get, man. Believe me, on May 12th at about, 7 o'clock, when they finally get around to it, the whole direction and complexion of the franchise will have changed.
Cooper Flagg will have that kind of impact. I believe that. If that's what they get, yes. Absolutely. The decisions.
Stop with the if and go with when. Man, you are a bad karma dude. You are. When, my friend? When? May 12th, about 6:57 p.m.
Okay, so the
Mountain
show on the morning of May 12th.
Daylight time.
That has to be how will you celebrate when? That has to be the question of the day that you post on Facebook.
I probably will come straight directly from the celebration. I won't go to sleep that night.
Well, that would be on Tuesday the 13th.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
But on the 12th, because it'll be when?
I understand that. I get it. I'm just saying. But I pointed out, I was going through what I was saying. I was labeling the time at 6:57 Mountain Daylight Time.
Yes.
That's what I'm telling you, man.
Yak says we have additional NFL news. What is breaking, Yak?
So the prank call that got Shedeur Sanders during the NFL
Fines have been handed out.
Yeah, $250,000 levied against the Atlanta Falcons. Jeff Ulbrich, whose son Jax was the one that stole the number, he's been fined $100K. Jax is going to have that allowance cut for a while.
Would you make your kid pay you back?
He's 21 years old. He better not be having an allowance.
His living stipend. I don't know what.
21. Ain't nobody would give me an allowance when I was 21. You're on your own, buddy. You want to go to school? Take out the freaking loans. And then I paid every penny back. Mod on. You guys in here the other day talking about, oh, yeah, college for the parents now. What? Huh? Who? That was such a foreign concept to me, what you guys were. I had to leave the room. There was no point in me continuing in that conversation because it was zero relatability.
You could relate. You didn't live it, but you can relate.
Yeah, well, whatever, find the guy. I got nothing on that.
100 for him, 250 for the team.
Yeah.
Knock that off.
It's been out for a little bit now.
Yep. All right, DJ PK, your feedback coming up next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ and PK, it is time for your feedback. What do you think about this show today? You said Iceman's impressed with you.
What?
PK really knows his stuff. Pulling out a Brian Sykes reference. Sykes. No, it's Brian Sipe. Sipe.
Like Wanda, that comedian?
Yeah. that doesn't matter. But yeah, that's how he spells it. Can you believe that, DJ? He did that without even Googling it, unlike someone else we know. PK knows his NFL most valuable players. He's dialed in.
Well, I don't remember him in college, but I know the name.
Games
NFL.
weren't on TV then. There's no way. There's no reason for you to. But yeah, in the NFL, he's playing for Cleveland, and they were good in the playoffs, and he was the MVP.
San Diego State wasn't in the U of A and ASU's conference.
Not yet.
Well, they never were.
Good point. But it's going to happen one day. Not yet, but one day. The video of that tremendous catch we were talking about in center field.
Varsho?
Yeah. He falls down, tumbles right in front of the 400 sign, and then gets up, just kind of peeks over his shoulder, never faces the field again, but peeks over his shoulder, sees the ball, looks over his right shoulder, and then reaches out to the left side with his glove and backhands the thing. Unbelievable catch. And it didn't matter. Boston won 10-2. So, but that was a cool out for Toronto. It cracked up the Toronto dugout. And Crazy Horse fan says, I do that all the time in my slow pitch co-ed softball games. Falling down in center field is my specialty. Recovering for the put out, that's up for debate among the team. But that Blue Jays catch, that was awesome.
Well, Varsho is a very athletic.
He was a Diamondback.
A catcher.
Oh, really? Yeah. 3
they
years
were-
in Arizona
they
and
were
then
debating catcher or outfield. Yeah.
They moved him to
Because
center. He won the Gold Glove last year.
He has that ability. I mean,
That was in the call. I didn't know that but I watched the play in the call, and they're like, all right, you got a Gold Glove, but now you're just showing off.
they've moved him around. He's played right field, and it's a great trade for the Diamondbacks. They got 2 starters out of it, and the Blue Jays needed a left-handed hitter, and Varsho was their guy.
He falls down and does a barrel roll on the warning track. That was unreal. All right, we got a lot of people weighing in on Giannis, and opinions are all over the place. Jack, he's not coming here. He wants to win, and we are tanking. Well, Jack, if they get Cooper Flag and they have a chance to get Giannis, then they can just throw the whole tanking plan out the window. Ainge will pivot. He's talked about that. There's no one plan. There's multiple plans and pathways. You got to be prepared for whatever opportunity opens up.
I think that is a true statement right there.
And Ainge has made he doesn't talk very often, but every time he talks about that. So I do think they're going to end up tanking. I think that's the most likely thing. But if, or according to PK, when they get the number one pick and they get Cooper Flag, if they had a chance to trade for Giannis, well, pivot.
Yeah, if it's the right move, and I trust Ainge to make the right move, I think that you could argue that the right move be to tank again next year and then get a second player. Mm-hmm. And if you got lucky twice, 2 years in a row, and you get DeBonsa, now you've got two kids.
And Flag.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's best case scenario.
Well, you'd be looking at San Antonio over there. They got 2 rookies of the year with Castle and Wembayama.
I actually think that they would be better collectively. Big Vic might be better than both, but if
Castle doesn't have the size that these other guys have.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Nothing against him because he's an outstanding player.
But he should have been taller. Do something about that.
So I would take 0-82 if I knew I get Flag this year, DeBonsa next year.
Classless Skip and Brian do not agree. Brian says, what kind of question is that? Of course. But Classless Skip says, Giannis doesn't fit the mythical timeline. I heard every player has to be between 19 and 24. And then Utah fan, David, do you really have to ask this question? He's MVP caliber, and you always try if you have a shot at that.
Okay, Durant is MVP caliber.
Yeah, well, not anymore.
He had a really good season.
He did have a really good season. Definitely had an all-star season. Maybe had an all-NBA season. I haven't doped all that stuff out yet.
Well, I mean,
probably
the team
not. They didn't win enough,
so
right. Probably won't get that award.
No, I think you have to look at it.
Durant's still very good, but I think the question with Giannis is not a question with Durant. Durant has to go to a team that's ready to win, and the Jazz aren't. Giannis, the thing I think is how close do you have to be to ready to being able to win before Giannis is interested in signing an extension with you.
I think with Durant, maybe you have an opportunity to be involved in a multi-team deal.
Sure.
That gives some picks to the Suns because they desperately need them. I mean, they don't control their picks until I think 2092 or something like that.
Well, they actually have some late first-round picks because the Jazz traded them the least of their
picks.
But their own picks they do not have. Right. So if they're bad and they want to draft 8, 6, 4, well, they've given a lot of those picks away. And what they're going to get from the Jazz is almost certainly going to be in the 20s. If either Cleveland or Minnesota is any good, that pick's going to be in the 20s.
Yeah, right. But still, they
want better picks.
Then you need picks to trade picks potentially.
Ray, I don't see Giannis being interested in the Jazz. They're too far away from contending for a championship, even with him. So Ray thinks the timeline doesn't fit.
Well, let's see. Let's see what
Jazz
happens.
jargon. They don't have a package the Bucks would like. They absolutely could make a package the Bucks would like. They have so many draft picks, and you give them some of the young players they're interested in.
Well, if they wanted to go crazy, and that's where I think maybe a 30-year-old, you're hesitant to go crazy.
But
they have a package that can pry just about any player loose. Not everyone, but
Ainge could build a package the Bucks would love.
Well, would he want to?
But his motivation to do that's a different thing.
Yeah, and I don't think he should. I wouldn't sell the farm for it.
All right, we're all done. Jake and Ben are going to talk more about this next. Stay with us right here on The Zone.